Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should. And please check out getitInWriting.net/shows for a full list of our podcast YouTube series.
All right, welcome to Insights in Sound. We are live from the NAMM show floor, where it's so noisy that we're pretending we actually hear each other. My guests today are David Royer and Dusty Wakeman of Mojave Audio.
Hi, folks.
And we're here to talk about microphones, because microphones are where it all starts.
It's where it all starts.
And
right. It's where the magic happens.
Exactly. It's also a really subjective topic. Everybody thinks they make the greatest microphone in the world. And everybody thinks that there's a new secret to making microphones. Now, David, you've been into this for a few minutes, right?
Only a couple.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of background. You guys were among some of the first to really kind of revive the whole large diaphragm paradigm and make it viable, going beyond the expensive German microphone paradigm, right? I mean, prior to you guys being in business, if you wanted a large diaphragm condenser mic, you were shelling out big bucks for a Neumann, basically.
Yeah, that's very apt.
Now, Dusty and I were talking about this earlier, the idea that much of what you had done was not necessarily concentrating on the capsule, but concentrating on the electronics, which I think is a very overlooked aspect of microphone design.
Yeah, that comes back to my background. Back when I was in my 20s, I simply could not afford professional quality microphones. And I was heavily into recording classical and ethnic music. And things like Radio Shack Electret microphones and Shure SM57s were inadequate.
57s are great for certain things, absolutely. But yeah, when you want a certain type of sound, especially a certain type of high-end, high frequency, upper frequency accuracy and definition and everything, there's not a dynamic mic in the world that's going to do that for you.
Right, and basically how I got started in all of this is I was unhappy with the microphones that were available that I could afford, and it dawned on me, why not take a couple of the inexpensive Radio Shack Electret microphones and start snipping on them. And I figured that a very good place to start with one of those Radio Shack mics would be to get rid of the horrible excuse of an output transformer it had. And that definitely helped it.
What I think is interesting about that is that there's so much attention paid to the capsule, and so much attention paid to those diaphragms, which it's really important, but we have, even in this day and age, we have lots and lots of low-end microphones coming out of Asia, for example, that have beautiful, nicely precision-engineered capsules.
Right.
And they still don't sound that great. So it's about more than just the diaphragm, isn't it?
Well, a little background there. Before David brought ribbon mics back from the dead, he was hand making condenser microphones that are not unlike what we manufacture today in his garage in Fullerton, about 10 miles from here. So in 2001, David published an article in Tape Op on how to take one of the $99 Marshall microphones and do a modification on it, add a transformer and a tube and a couple other components, and for a couple of $100, you'd end up with a really nice sounding microphone. There was a lot of interest in that, so this was prior to my involvement with Mojave Audio, but Rick and John, the guys over at Royer, decided to produce a kit under the Mojave name. For $350, you could get a kit with an instruction manual and all the parts you need, and you'd buy your own $99 Marshall and do this mod. So for 450 bucks, you end up with a really nice sounding mic. Well,
this sell
fast
well?
forward, the demand for that was really high, and they learned that you really don't want to be in the kit business because of the customer service involved when people transpose pin 1 and pin 6. That's an hour on the phone with David sorting that out.
Sure.
So
I'll
we
bet.
decided to start manufacturing ourselves. That led to the launch of Mojave Audio in 2005 with the MA200. But it's all about, you know, the capsules. David, you could speak to this, but the Chinese figured out a way to mass produce capsules that are very consistent. They're not hand tuned, so there's not the wide variation that you see from some of the way more expensive
Or
capsule
the
manufacturers.
older capsules that were made, you know, like in the Austrian factories with the little old ladies making them by hand. Obviously, there's a consistency factor there.
Yeah, so you'd have to listen to 6 to find the one that you want.
Right.
Ours are very consistent, and we have no problem with the capsules. But it's all about the components that follow it. The transformer and the tube and capacitors and resistors. And that's where David's design comes in.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, yeah, let's go back to the capsules for just a short minute. A sneaky thing the Chinese came up with was to set the spacings between the diaphragms and the backplate and between the two halves of the backplate was to use copper shims like you'd use in a car engine rather than finicky machining.
And those shims can be very, very finely and consistently manufactured so that there is a consistency factor there.
Yeah, they can stamp them out by the thousand.
Must make it easier also to get a matched pair.
Yeah.
When they can do this.
Yeah.
Such a consistent manufacturer. Yeah.
Yeah, when we're matching pairs of mics, we're really matching sensitivity more than frequency response because they're so consistent.
Yeah. And then so going beyond the capsules now, a lot of this has to do with the custom electronics that you guys put into it, right?
Yeah, and the short answer to that is that with the MA200, the microphone is essentially the same circuit arrangement that I had called for with my kit and with that 20-year-old tape-op article. And I was working from many years of experience when I wrote that article. I had been building a tube condenser microphone for years that was kind of sort of based on the U47 design. And I had gotten the bugs worked out of that. And
good one to emulate. If you're going to pick one, that's probably a damn good choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, pretty much everybody that's making modern condenser mics is doing a variation on classic German, Austrian mic design. They're just doing either clones or their modern versions of it.
Yeah, that's true. Although I think there's something really special about the 47. You know, people just have a sort of a love for that particular microphone.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous mic.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And
I had a beautiful one for decades.
Yeah. I mean, that to me is. I mean, it's a great place to start. You know.
Yeah, well, that's another story.
Okay.
That's a whole other conversation.
Because I don't exactly go completely teary-eyed over U47s. I consider them to be among the great microphones. But that being said, I'm not going to thumb my nose at the RCA 44BX or the Sony C37A or the Western Electric 640AA, because all of those microphones are certainly well-engineered microphones, and they each did what they were designed to do very well, and they basically are a credit to the designers who designed them. But to get back to the original point, with that kit, I was using parts that were available in California at the time, and I was trying to build the best microphone I could at the most reasonable price possible. And then when we decided to go into commercial production, there was a very simple matter to send the things that I was sourcing here in the United States, to send those to China, and to have them basically make microphones the way that I wanted them made.
According to your specs and using your particular parts and whatnot. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
We spend the money on the things you can hear.
I like that. That could be a slogan or something.
Well, I've said it before. I didn't just make it up.
Yeah.
But you know, any microphone, like any audio chain, is only as good as the worst component.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's the limiting factor right there. So we don't scrimp on any of those. And one thing I've learned from David, especially, is about transformers, because we're big transformer people, is that you can't skimp on transformers. Size matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
consistency matters.
Consistency matters,
Yeah.
materials matter,
Sure.
workmanship matters, and there's just nowhere around that. As David says, you can't fight the laws of physics.
And you can't change them either.
Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so how problematic was it for you guys to come up with the parts that you wanted and maintain consistencies with those parts? You know, transformers, tubes, things that are a little more variable and a little bit harder to source.
Well, basically, I think the short answer there is doing it for the number of years that I've been doing it. I've learned where to look for the parts I need, and I've
You got a
known
guy.
how to.
You know a guy.
It's a big part of my job.
Yeah, I'll bet it is.
And I've known how to keep tabs on the manufacturing, and it all comes from experience, many years of it.
Yeah,
Well,
when we get a box of transformers in from Jensen or Coast or whoever, David inspects all of them, tests them.
That's what I was going to
You
say.
know-
Is that's probably one of your first steps there, is just testing this stuff for consistency across the
Yeah.
board, right?
And we use
Yeah.
great vendors, so we don't have a lot of problems there. Probably the biggest problem we have is the new old stock tubes.
That was gonna be
Fortunately,
my
we
next
bought-
question. Yes.
We bought
Yes.
like a room, you were there, we bought a room full of them
Uh-huh.
about 15 years ago, so we have plenty of them, but that's probably the most the most variable thing. But
Uh-huh.
like I say, fortunately, we have plenty of them. So
Good to know.
it's not like a VF14.
Uh-huh. So what are your biggest challenges at this point in terms of where you sit in the overall food chain, shall we say?
Well, we're dealing with supply chain issues like everybody else. We were supposed to be releasing our new handheld dynamic at this NAMM show, and that didn't happen.
You guys are going to do a dynamic?
We have one, yeah.
Ooh.
It took me 10 years to beat it out of David because he doesn't like dynamics, but we finally found one that he would sign off on.
Okay.
But that was going to be the big premiere, but
Uh-huh.
we couldn't get them in time, so we had to table that. But fortunately, the factory's back open again as of this week, so that's good news. We've actually done pretty well with the supply. We're only back ordered on one model right now, and they're in production, so
Uh-huh.
it's been okay. Our production cycle is 6 months long, so we're pretty far ahead of the game.
Wow.
So that's served us well. We're not in like the wait till the last minute and order thing. We have to plan way ahead. So
So you just chain David to a desk for several hours a day and make him crank these things out, right?
pretty much,
Yeah.
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 Feed him once in a while, keep him caffeinated.
You know, if you keep them hungry, they actually work hard.
Yeah,
Not me.
yeah, not David.
Uh,
Yeah, lunch is a very important part of the day.
Absolutely.
Blood sugar
So
regulation
you
is
keep
important.
You keep them well fed and well regulated. Okay?
Right, another
It's
part
the
of my job.
consistency factor again.
Yeah, another part of my job.
Uh-huh. So what's next for you guys other than a handheld dynamic?
Well, the MA37 you know about, that's our latest release. That's David's modern interpretation of the classic C37A.
Yeah, I'm
And
excited.
people
to
are
actually hear one of
loving
those.
that.
Yeah.
We're just having a blast with that mic.
Uh-huh.
It's not for everybody. Unlike all of our other mics, which are desert island mics, this is like a specialty vibe. So those in the know just love that mic. Yesterday, people were just giving us accolades all day long.
Uh-huh.
This is the first new mic I've been excited about in years. So I
Coming-
could stand
coming
there and
from
listen to
you,
that all day
that's-
long.
Yeah, coming from you, that's a statement.
But we're working on a broadcast mic.
Really?
We're going to bring back the MA100, which is our small diaphragm tube condenser, with an updated design. Inside, it'll be the same as before, but it's going to have some new features and, you know, a little bit of a facelift. And then we'll see after that. Designs are not a problem. David's got a notebook full of designs. It's more on me being able to bring them, to produce them and bring them to the marketplace.
Well, and that's an interesting question that I think should be addressed. Is the whole idea of, you know, you come up with an idea. What's the process of bringing that to reality?
Well, we have to look at what the market is, really. What's the market asking for?
Right.
We have a wonderful stereo MA300. I have one of them. Well, there's two in existence, one here and one back at the factory. And I would love to make that microphone. It's a great microphone, but I don't know how many people are going to buy it. There's not a big market for expensive stereo microphones, large diaphragm stereo microphones.
Well, and especially, I mean, stereo microphones, you know, they're great for live, you know, for sticking over a drummer's head or something like that, but you're not going to take something like that on the road, obviously.
No, that's not a road mic, it's tube. And so I would love to make that, but it doesn't really make sense market-wise. But I think the MA100, we stopped making it before because we didn't sell enough, but now it seems to have a life of its own. I'm getting contacted by all these people, especially like big-time front-of-house mixers that want that microphone. And they're asking for some specific features that we're going to include. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll bring that out. Maybe the next NAMM we'll be talking about that.
Well, that's coming up in less than a year or so, I understand.
Right, April, I heard?
Yeah.
I really like June. Let's keep it at June.
The problem with June, though, is that everybody's on tour. I know. Hell with them, right?
Yeah, right. I'm not.
Oh.
We're available.
Yeah, it's true. So, from your perspective, when you come up with an idea, you got a notebook full of ideas, you get the go-ahead from Dusty that there's a market for this. What's the next step for you?
Basically beating all the bugs out of it and kind of riding herd on the people who are doing the physical layout and the rest of that, and then getting samples for beta testing, and then going from there. And I think the tail of the MA37 is well worth talking about for a few moments, because it isn't exactly like I got the word, David, you're going to make a rehash of a Sony C37. It didn't work that way.
Yeah, David's been wanting to do that for 10 years.
10 years my hind
20,
foot.
okay.
Try 35.
All right.
So just a little while.
But the long and the short of it was that about 3 or 4 years ago, I was at a community college, and they had a program for teaching people on the autism spectrum how to do CNC controlled machining. And I made a big mistake. I said to the instructor of that program, you know something, if your students could learn how to make professional quality microphones, everybody on this campus would be eating out of the palms of their hands. And after
all of a sudden you found a friend, huh?
Yes, and after that I was faced with a problem of, okay, David, you've got a practical problem you have to deal with. And then after knocking it around a little bit, I figured that building a microphone more or less based on the C37A was the shortest path between points A and B. And after building, I literally bought a pair of cheap MXL microphones and Sonyized them. And all I had to do was to hand out a few recordings that I had made using a stereo pair of them. And the next thing I knew was that it was time to go balls to the wall to do a revisited version of the C37A, and you saw the result.
So what's your beta test process like? You guys have people you actually give these out to, or do you just test them in house? And what kind
we do both. We have some trusted friends.
Are you doing?
Well, you know, you've been there. We have an in-house studio now, but our other partner, Colin Liebig, has a studio in Venice, so we can do beta testing there. We have a couple of other studios that we have carte blanche at. The late, great David Bianco's studio is in North Hollywood, Dave's place. So we go there. That's 10 minutes away. Sam Rakuja has a place downtown called Seahorse Sound. It's a bigger room, so we do stuff there. But I was in the studio business in LA for 28 years, so I have a lot of friends.
My sympathies.
Yeah, right. I survived to tell the tale.
Right.
But I've got a lot of friends that still have studios, so, you know, we got lots of opportunities to beta test stuff.
So, because, you know, that's the thing that I think it's a little bit challenging, is you're beta testing something that is by its very nature a subjective thing. You know, I mean, a microphone can sound great or it can sound horrible depending on conditions, depending on what your source is and all of that. And so you've got to have people who are really understanding of that critical listening process, don't you?
Well, we've got some guys like Ryan Hewitt and Ross Hogarth who are kind of know what they're doing. Andrew Sheps, some people like that we trust. You know, when I first heard the MA200 prototype, John Jennings brought it over to Mad Dog, and Eddie Kramer was working there. So he was part of the first listening. We put it up against my two 67s, and it was like, okay, you tell me which one's not a 67. You know, and that's what it's like, hey, if you need somebody to help with this, you know, I raised my hand, and 17 years later, here we are. But yeah, we've got a really good network. And, you know, plus we like to do our own beta testing. I like to get, my favorite instrument for testing a microphone is a tambourine. Because a tambourine will show up all the bad stuff a mic does.
Well, and a tambourine's going to be in the mix whether you want it to be or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, shake a tambourine in front of our prototype and whatever we're comparing it to, and, you know, hopefully it sounds better and more realistic. If it doesn't, then it's back to the drawing board. But with David's designs, yeah, I got a box full. I've tried that. With David's designs, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's going to sound better than whatever we're shooting for.
Right. Well, and another thing is that I have gone out and I've made recordings of classical and ethnic music since I was in my early 20s. And I
That's
think...
also demanding, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful case in point. At the end of January of this year, I recorded a concert of piano trios, and I set up 2 MA100s, and I did no signal processing or anything with the recordings, and basically the quality of the recordings had everything to do with the capabilities of the microphones, the Sony recorder that I used, and the musicianship of the performers and the quality of their instruments.
So you guys are here at the show, obviously.
Yeah, we're having a great time. I'm very pleased with the turnout.
It's actually, it's surprising in a very good way how good the turnout's been, and it's great to be back at NAMM.
Well, for me, it's not about the quantity of people that come by, it's about the quality of the conversations.
Yeah.
And that's been really good.
Yeah.
And it's nice not to have 5 more people standing there waiting to talk to you while you're trying to have a conversation with somebody. So
fair point.
It's been good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we are obviously looking forward to seeing what comes next from you guys. You know, it's been, you have carved out a really nice little niche for yourselves in a very competitive segment of the industry. I mean, you know, everyone and their mother makes a microphone.
Yeah, we live in a great age. There's so much great gear out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, we feel like that we do the best of what we do.
And you're addressing really, as I say, a very demanding clientele in that sense.
Right.
So you better have something special.
Yeah, well, we're trying to enable artists and producers to do their best work and make them affordable.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it. I have a couple of things to point out here, too.
Sure,
that,
please.
To build on what Dusty said. with the MA200 and the MA100, I definitely designed those with an eye toward the bottom line. But when I decided to do the MA1000, I figured, okay, I'm going to try to aim considerably higher. And I figured that people who were really serious would be willing to spend the extra money.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then ditto for the MA37. I figured that the original Sony C37A, when it's the right microphone for the job, it's a really tough act to follow. And I decided, or we decided, I should say, that if we're going to have a competitive product, that it better at least meet the same standard as a well-maintained C37A, and if possible, it should better it.
Yes.
And we managed to at least meet the standard that we set.
Plus, it's gorgeous.
It is. Well, Dusty Wakeman, David Royer, thank you for being our guest.
Thanks for having us, Daniel.
And wishing you a great show, and we will obviously be in touch in the future as well.
Great. Always nice talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
See you, folks.
Hey, I'm Daniel Keller. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us each week for Insights in Sound.